Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus channel. Military personnel refer to the Crash Damage Disable Aircraft Recover Unit, or CDDAR, as the program you hope you never need. The unit is made up of maintenance and repair teams that are specially trained in handling situations where downed aircraft can be salvaged, repaired, or recovered. The ultimate goal is to find a way for these multi-million-dollar aircraft to fly again. Among the many tools at CDDAR's disposal are air compressors, lifting airbags, cranes, and more. In many cases, crashed aircraft are far too damaged for repairs. However, in cases of failed landing gear and other less severe issues, CDDAR's response can make all the difference. As a member of CDDAR, every situation is different. Not only are they responsible for the recovery of any damaged planes or helicopters, but they are also required to return any runways involved in an incident to operation status as soon as possible. In many cases, this will require quickly lifting a damaged plane using pneumatic bags, compressors, and a series of hoses. These bags are placed underneath the wings and nose of the damaged aircraft, and then inflated until they make contact with the frame. This is a safe and efficient way to lift a plane weighing thousands of pounds in a matter of minutes. Most importantly, the CDDAR team gets access to the runway and the underside of the damaged aircraft. Using all this equipment properly takes a lot of practice. For this reason, the U.S. military has special CDDAR training programs where prospective members can get the education they need. CDDAR knows that every crash scenario they might encounter will be very different. That's why the equipment they use is highly versatile, modular, and lightweight. During training, members of a CDDAR team often get the chance to work with a wide variety of aircraft, including many that are much larger than they might be used to. Fortunately, the compressed airbags are versatile enough to lift tens of thousands of pounds at once, provided they are placed properly around the aircraft frame. It's worth noting that during practice drills, the CDDAR team stops short of actually lifting the plane. This is to prevent putting any pressure on the airframe that might result in structural damage down the line. At remote airfields and forward operating bases, runway clearance is essential to the CDDAR's mission. If a plane were to crash and damage the runway, it would be up to these teams to get the area clear and usable again as quickly as possible. As these smaller air bases do not always have multiple runways in use, having a single landing area out of commission could leave planes stranded in the sky for hours at a time. During a recovery operation, the CDDAR team will arrive with several dozen members and use various equipment to get the damaged plane out of the way.
Up here. Oh.
In crash situations where an aircraft is far from the base or off in the brush, time will remain a factor.
You know, that's good.
However, heavier equipment will need to be utilized. In the case of large aircraft crashes, CDDAR may disassemble the plane or helicopter into smaller, more manageable pieces. In September of 2021, soldiers operating from two CH-53 King Stallions executed a recovery of a downed Navy MH-60 helicopter. The mission was one of the first major operations for the brand new King Stallion, which was yet to be officially introduced as part of the fleet. These massive heavy lifting copters are capable of handling external loads of up to 36,000 pounds. This makes them an ideal asset for recovery operations. The MH-60 in question went down near Bishop, California. As the CH-53s were already training in various heavy lifting operations, they were dispatched to the area of the crash, which had an elevation of 12,000 feet. In thinner air, some helicopters have problems producing enough upward thrust to lift heavy loads. Fortunately, the King Stallions boast much stronger engines than their counterparts. After salvage teams cleared the site, a single CH-53 was able to carry the entire downed helicopter back to base. A few years earlier, a missile retriever ship accidentally ran aground near Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida. The military immediately commenced a salvage operation, which included teams from a nearby mobile diving salvage unit as well as military personnel from the base. When the team arrived, they inspected the bottom of the ship's hull and found that it was still intact. Using the log rolling method, they worked together to slowly inch the vessel back into the water. In some situations, an aircraft may go down in such a remote area that the only feasible solution for salvaging it is to repair it on the spot. Such was the case with a CV-22 Osprey that suffered an in-flight emergency and had to land in the middle of the New Mexico desert. It took maintenance teams from the nearest base more than 3 months to work on the downed aircraft to get it ready to fly. The process required the mechanics to build a flat area so that they would have a stable platform from which to work. In order to support the team in its efforts, the nearby base had to airlift equipment, parts, and even shelter to the crash site. Though it took a lot of time and effort, Osprey did eventually fly home. There are many different types of operations that fall under the recovery designation. However, in almost every case, training is paramount to protecting the recovered asset and the military or civilian personnel doing the salvaging. Such is the case for NASA's Orion spacecraft. Like many of the space capsules used in various missions, the Orion is intended to return back to Earth and splash down into a large body of water. Though the capsule can float for a period of time, it's up to Naval and Coast Guard crews to get to the spacecraft as soon as possible, secure it, and then safely direct it back to the nearest ship. Training for such a recovery is common at naval bases, where teams on fast boats attempt to direct the capsule into the well deck of a waiting amphibious assault ship. In certain situations, salvaging the damaged ship or aircraft must wait while potentially hazardous materials are recovered instead. And in some cases, it can take decades for that to happen. Consider the story of the Coimbra, which wrecked 30 miles offshore of Shinnecock, New York. This British supply ship was carrying oil to Nova Scotia when it was torpedoed by a German U-boat. It sank in January of 1942. It wasn't until 2019, however, that the massive drums of oil, totaling more than 450,000 gallons, were found trapped in the wreckage. Knowing the value of the oil and the threat it might pose to the environment if it began leaking, Coast Guard crews began working on retrieving the drums. Despite the wreck being located in more than 180 feet of water, the recovery teams were able to retrieve the oil and prevent environmental contamination. As for the Coimbra itself, after 80 years, it has become a permanent part of the seabed. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.